So welcome, 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 our brilliant, beloved brother Chris. We so appreciate your incredible leadership, tenacity as always. And as always, we begin all things by giving thanks to the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We give thanks to all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We give thanks to all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So, Chris, can you please introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers and share a bit about your remarkable works?
Thank you, Victor. My name is Christopher Googoo. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Ulnooweg Development Group, and hold the title of the Executive Director for the Ulnooweg Indigenous Communities Foundation. I'm also, I guess, wearing the hat of the Chief Operating Officer for the Ulnooweg Education Center as well. So there's three different entities under the Ulnooweg family.
Incredible. Your work has spanned over 2 decades, 25 years with this incredible organization, and the organization started 40 years ago. I'd love to learn more about the history, the mission, the mandates, and the trajectory of the organization from inception.
Yeah. So our story actually it begins with like Canada's history, the untold history of the 60 scoop era, and if you recall that, and the story goes along kind of the where the president of the Native Women's Association actually at the time just overheard a couple teenagers talking about finding families, in the Halifax area and coming back to community to learn about their language and culture, and and all the issues that come with that as well. So if you can imagine, early 80s, a lot of socioeconomic issues, and she went to one of the gatherings of the elders at the time and the chiefs leadership, and she requested uh, basically requested something to be done, and to address these issues. And at the time, she was a strong matriarch, right? It's the matriarchs that get the things going for us, and this was a strong woman. So that request went to the chiefs, and then basically they did a resolution that kind of sparked then a gathering that occurred back in the early 80s. I think it was in 84. It was a national gathering of like-minded individuals, both from the Indigenous community, but also in the public sector, academics area, and also in the world of philanthropy as well. That led to a couple studies and kind of the blueprint for three major things at the time. And one was the creation of the Mi'kmaq Family Services organization, and the creation of the social program at Dalhousie University. And those were focused on really taking control of our um, adoption adoption of kids and stuff. But the third was the creation of a development group, and that led to Ulnooweg. And that led to a mandate by the community at the time, which was very broad, and it focused on economic and business development, training and employment, and supporting organizations within the philanthropic and benevolent communities. So we were 40 years ago, this insight from the communities as to what was necessary to get out of these areas of hardship, right? And so Ulnooweg, the development group, now for profit, started, and we focused the first 2 decades on the business development side, for grants from the federal government that basically started us. And there was a national effort kind of at the same time, which was running parallel, which started actually 33 common type organizations. We were one of the first, I'd say first six or first eight or AFIs at the time. So that led us into this work of just basically lending to our communities and grant making. When I came on board 25 years ago now, seems like just yesterday, but it was it started kind of it was a new management, of course. Our former director, John Bauer, he passed away during this time. So John was very involved in community and very involved in resourcing communities and developing committees and stuff like that. So it started this momentum. And so um, during this time, Ulnooweg kind of went through this process of reevaluating itself. And we went into creating new policies, new procedures, strengthening Ulnooweg. With strength comes, requests for support from the community. And the more we dug into these areas of support, the more we saw kind of going back to like the need, that original mandate, we hadn't fulfilled that. And um, in the next kind of 5, 6 years, we are still looking at community growing our base, strengthening Ulnooweg. And from those, we of course gained some own source revenues from those services as well, which led to um, a different management structure, which by then, back in like 7 years after I joined, I became the general manager. So there was a two-level CEO, director, and general manager position, which really opened us up to a lot more stuff. And so um, during that same time, I recall for me personally, I started thinking for myself what it meant to be an indigenous person, an indigenous organization, and what values does that come with. And as an indigenous person at this level of management, as a general manager of this institution, what were my responsibilities to the community too? So, and what were my responsibilities in portraying ourselves out there, not only for ourselves, but to partners, what an Indigenous organization stood for, right? So our very name means Indigenous. It acts like Ulnooweg, right? So Ulnu is our antonym, our name for ourselves. And so that was kind of the starting point of this long journey where although I was the general manager and changed title, chief operating officer, I've always been kind of the visionary of the organization, right? Being indigenous myself, and the CEO is not non-indigenous, so we've had a very strong relationship where we take certain roles, not. I guess that wouldn't be acceptable in the rest of society, right? But that was our the organization was being able to adapt to that. Um, and really, those questions for me personally then led to the original mandate of Ulnooweg, and led us into creating these different pathways of access to capital for community, which led us into social impact investment, led us into the world of philanthropy, um, the offering of more services to the communities, brought us into all the gaps that were there for us to move forward as communities and businesses, which led us to creating more effort into being involved in the education space. 2013, it led us to the creation of the Illinois Financial Education Center. And we are focused on offering financial literacy training for governments at the time. But within 2 or 3 years, we went into the area of STEM education. And that really then just kind of took off itself. And and 2 years after that, well, in 2018, 5 years after that, we created the Illinois Communities Foundation. Excuse me, Illinois Indigenous Communities Foundation. And so that was another special moment in our history where, as an indigenous person and looking at the original mandate, I realized how important these points of time were, especially with the foundation. And if you look at our video, um, there's an elder that speaks to how important the the creation of this foundation was, and um, how did he how special it was, but also how, in terms of our responsibility was was a great responsibility that we're taking on, right? Because it wasn't about just lending to businesses and lending to community, but now we were dealing with actually doing things that affected directly our children and their futures, and affected our elders in ways that we've never done before in our past 2.5 decades. So we took that responsibility very seriously. I did anyway, and and that's when I kind of started where, okay, we need to really bring in the values, and a lot of those values come from ceremony. And this brought in then the knowledge holders, knowledge keepers within our community, and more elders, and sharing those stories, and where we also try to bring out that knowledge, we also, experience the trauma associated with that too. So this process, yeah, took us to this place where we have now four different entities. Actually, we have a U.S.-based foundation, but those three main entities now fulfill that original mandate back in '85.
That's absolutely incredible. What a remarkable journey. So, speaking of that journey, a 40-year organizational journey and 25 years of service, sacrifice, and remarkable leadership from yourself. What's inspiring you right now about this work? What wakes you up and you're just invigorated to continue this journey?
It's my excitement, to be honest, Victor. It's just the possibilities of our people. Like I'm a you know I look at the reels and all that from Facebook and all those social media of Indigenous past, right? And then I'm talking Indigenous about Indigenous worldwide, right? And all the history that's untold, and all that uh, civilization that existed before colonization. And I'm always, thinking like we had so much knowledge. We had so much knowledge that colonization took away from us, but we're getting it back in ways that respects our values, and we've kept our values so long. And when I look at our journey with elders and knowledge keepers, we look back at the traditions that we've held on for so long, or even for our part, uh, our elders share stories of our past, where we knew things were going to get worse for us, and we took our knowledge and our knowledge holders, and told them, go west, go west and hold our knowledge until the time is right to come back, and we can learn our ways again. And we've seen that. We see that happening now. And what excites me is that the possibilities now that I see with our children are just they're so invigorating for me. I like it when I just see their minds going,
Yeah,
right? You
yeah.
show them something, and we're big on that. We're big on exposure. So when I expose kids to these different areas, robotics and 3D tech modeling, whatever, right? That they don't see in schools, it just gets their minds going, and you can see that live, and it's exciting to watch, and it's just a strong reminder of the inventions that we've had over the years and where they came from, and the acceptance of that history, that we're part of all the good things that have come forward into what we live in today, and we weren't just out there begging for food and stuff. We were participants. We were actual participants in civilizations, right? And I see that now growing, and the more that I can push that narrative out to our communities, um, the more successes I see growing from it.
Absolutely. And it's inspiring just to see you light up because when you speak about the
Mm.
possibilities of the young people that you're working with and your community, literally your eyes, your whole like your aura just started glowing, So I see it. And I think after 25 years of sacrifice, service, and leadership, I think it's inspiring to me to see that you still have that passion, that conviction to really strive to make things better for your
Mm.
community. So my next question for you is, are there some key priorities right now or key initiatives that you're working on that you like to amplify?
Our key initiative really is creating those safe spaces, right? And when I say safe spaces, is spaces where not only where our children can learn and bring culture and tradition into those spaces, not like our colonial structures in schools and stuff, but in an example, we purchased a 200-acre piece of forest, and so students get to come there and learn about science in ways that you can learn from a textbook and stuff, but then you can go and walk into the forest and actually learn about this and learn about the relationship that elders and knowledge holders have always talked about. Um, and I think the other thing too is more important is also the knowledge that's there from especially our elders. They hold so much knowledge and the history of centralization and the residential schools has really kept that um, at bay, and now we're seeing it coming back to life. And it's such a I love that experience of seeing elders just light up, right? It's bringing them in. We have these little circles, and then we see these other elders outside of those circles. So you have multiple ones, right? And you see them gradually coming in, and their comfort levels grow, and we give them time, and then when they're coming into these circles, eventually it just lights up, and you see that light up. And what Victor, what we've seen to happen as well is that when they finally see their themselves as elders, and you could see them. There's this story that was told by one of our workers that an elder that we use in the agricultural space. She said he just seen him just sitting down with his arms crossed and just with a big smile, right? And we're just watching the kids, and you could see how much appreciation he had of the kids wanting to learn about his knowledge, right? And how much they respected him for that. And I want to give that experience to all our elders because all of them hold that knowledge, right? And but it really requires us to create those safe spaces and really give them time to come to the circle to be able to talk and speak.
That's absolutely beautiful. And it's a perfect segue. When we think about eldership and intergenerational collaboration, I remember in one of our conversations, you shared with me one of the most remarkable personal and professional development models where staff get an opportunity to sit. I remember my grandfather used to always say, 1,000 cups of tea, Vic. Like, so being able to just sit and talk with an elder for an extended period of time as a tool for personal and professional development. I'd love to hear more about that because a lot of times when we think about professional and personal development, we have these very linear, Western, global, like the models, Eurocentric models that sometimes don't really get to the core of transformational experiences for young people or for our staff. So the way you framed it was remarkable, and I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, we've we kind of we I always talked about with our staff, especially when going back to your question about like the values, right? And what it means to bring those values as an organization. And one of the things that um, I've tried to share with our staff is, when you're coming to Ulnooweg and working for Ulnooweg or partnering with Ulnooweg, I don't want you between 9 and 5 o'clock. 9 to 5, right? I want you as the person that you're bringing in. Whatever you're passionate about is what I want to see, right? And you might have a master's in biology and stuff, but your passion could be something very off, right? And but that's where you as an individual, as a human being exists, is where your passion is. So that I look for that a lot in people. And so there's a very thin line in our organization in what personal and professional development is. And so one, as an example, when people want to join the ceremony, I consider that as professional development. Although it is personal development, it is also professional development because it supports the work that we do when we connect with community, right? In ceremony, we need to be able to share our experiences with our people. If they don't know about ceremony, how can we share those if we're not in ceremony as well? Right. So those things that we share, and I'm not just talking about Indigenous people as well, non-Indigenous people in our organization. I also give those teachings to them as well, that if they want to go into ceremony in their ways, they're able to and free to do that as well. And we'd love to learn that part of their cultures as well, right? Because it is about multiple perspectives, and I have to respect all perspectives that my staff bring together. So one of the things we implemented was Bidaway with an elder, and basically tea with an elder. So we bring them roughly about every 3 weeks, and they come, give them about 2 to 3 hours, and there's absolutely no agenda and no predetermined questions. And we do talk with them prior to just to I remember this couple speakers ago, um, an elder wanted to meet with me the day prior, and but he wanted to meet like after work, like 5:30. So we met at the office, and we spoke about 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and he kept on telling me, is that what you're looking for, Chris? Is that what you want? I said, hey, this is your show, like whatever you want to talk about, right? And we get individuals that talk about their involvement in organizations like AIM, for example, or the Assembly of First Nations, or water protectors, very various people. Experts in masters in basket making and quill work, and if we're bringing in a master of in basket making, and they want to talk about their time in university, that's what they'll talk about, right? And but these stories, it's really fascinating seeing them too. You know, absorb the time, if I can say that, absorbing the time, and they see the diversity that we have as an organization, but they also see the interest in their lives from our staff, right? And it's a humble, I think it's a humbling experience for them about the value that we actually have for them that they don't realize, right? But they see it there. And with our staff of numbering almost close to 100 now, they'll have our boardroom will be about 30 people with the elder, and the TVs for another 30 maybe, right? And we do have a Q&A period there, but we definitely ask them to come later on and come back with us, or they just become, like I said, they become part of our circle now, and they move along into the inner circle, and they become their elderships, right?
I love that. That's a beautiful, perfect segue to my next question. You are being made and formed and fashioned into a remarkable elder. You're being cultivated into a future ancestor. What is your ultimate goal, and what does success look like to you in terms of your work?
The one thing, Victor, I've stressed and I keep stressing is that we can't be too worried about our legacy, because it traps us in a future instead of the present, right? And I used an example one time of these individuals, they were very um, successful in their own rights. They're international group that came to Acidulisk actually. And a lot of them that they were asking themselves that question about I've gone to this point about being successful, but I feel like I haven't accomplished anything, right? And I simply pointed to the embers in the fire then. I said, if your time here is just to be able to blow on that ember and keep it lit for the next generation, then that's your purpose. And you have to be all right with that. You have to be all right with that. And because if you're not, then it's gonna one thing, it's just gonna drive you crazy, but it's gonna create you to make decisions that don't exist in the present, but may exist in the future that we have no control of. Right. And I think that for me, I think that is the one of the biggest issues of philanthropy. Everybody's looking for legacy, and we're not in the present today. Right. So that's a little thing that I share with a lot of people that yeah, it's I'm not looking for a legacy. I just want to do and keep that amber going and take the next generation to as high as I can, and then it's they take that torch, right? So
That's beautiful. And that's something that you mentioned on our very first call. And I think it was even more articulate and more clear and resonated much more strongly today. Thank you. So, my last question, do you have any closing thoughts or calls to action for anyone that be watching or viewing this interview?
my call to action is really for the philanthropic sector to realize that there's so much still that needs to be done. Recently, I've heard that through Canada House, for example, they hit their $500 million mark in donations in Canada, right? For a year. Yet we're still, as Indigenous people, we're still only receiving 1% of those donations in Canada. Yet this is also the 10-year celebration of the declaration that was signed by many foundations and organizations through the Circle of Philanthropy. So even moving that 2-3 points uh, would be a great impact for the community. And so that's where a lot of my work is now. How do we move that needle, and how do I, as an individual and as an organization as well, support developing the infrastructure for the communities to receive those funds, but also to create an ecosystem, and where an ecosystem develops those relationships with the rest of Canada, and create the society that we're all wanting to, where we're all aiming for basically our children to have the best lives that we can give them.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for your diligence, your leadership, your candor, transparency, your service, and your sacrifice. It's inspiring, beyond inspiring. I'm looking forward to my sons and my daughters watching this interview. And as always, we close the way we began by giving thanks to ritual stewards of the various lands around. We give thanks to all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We give thanks to all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. Chris, thank you so much for your time. I so appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Victor.